To order, may we have a roll call?
Yes, ma'am. Darrell Anderson. Here. John Surface.
Here.
Christopher Smith. Kenneth Marks.
Here.
Dallas Smith.
Here.
English West Holmes.
Here.
Rhonda Connor.
Here.
Madam Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you. If you would, please join me in the invocation. Reverend Anderson.
Lord, we thank you for this day. Thank you for this gathering of people to help make decisions for your city. We just pray for insight to make the right decisions that we may continue to move forward. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. The pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we move on to the minutes, I'd like to introduce our newest board member, Rhonda Connor. Ms. Connor comes to us with a lot of experience in banking, and I'd like to give her a minute if she'd like to make a few comments.
I am happy to be here to
Pull
serve.
your mic down, Ms. Connor.
I'm very happy to be here to serve. I've been working for Community Bank for the past 25 years, so I'm just glad to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I've known Ms. Connor a extremely long time. I'd like to move on to our minutes. You've received a copy of the minutes from the last meeting. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second? It's been moved and second to approve the minutes of the December 2nd meeting. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries. Mr. Betty's presentation. Any presentations?
No presentation.
Communications?
And any attacks we have communication, put off the Chamber of Commerce 120th Annual Banquet on January the 29th. And my understanding is that the board have purchased a table, a silver table for this event in the past. If you guys wish to do so, we would certainly move forward with it. How many seats at that table, Joe? 10 seats at the table.
That's for the chamber banquet?
Annual banquet.
Annual.
Yes,
That's
sir.
the annual thing.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and second to approve that we purchase a table for that meeting. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries.
Do we have to RSVP it individually?
I would suggest you give Joni a call.
I'll send you guys an email. Get it going.
Okay, thank you.
Let me see this also.
I will say that, the city normally gets 2 tables. So I think we will have ample space for those of you guys who if you want to bring someone. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
You had some additional reminders?
Yeah, the next one we have is the MLK annual brunch, which will be January the 20th, which is next Monday.
Yes.
We have purchased a table, is that right? So we have purchased a table. Those of you who would like to be there, if you want to come, there's always extra seats, so if you want to be there, please come by. Just tell me what EDC.
Don't you need a ticket to enter?
No,
You don't?
just tell me what EDC. The next one is the Port Arthur Educational, State Educational Luncheon, which is Tuesday, February the 11th at the Carl Parker Center. I think those are individual tickets.
We voted on it last month.
Say again?
We voted on that last month.
Okay. And the other thing that's not on the list that, I don't know how many of you guys have already signed up. We do have a workshop that you guys will be holding on Thursday, the 16th, at the Carl Parker Center. It's by ACT, PAID, Port Arthur EDC, also Marseille College and the Workforce Board, Work Keys. So we certainly, I think, Joni, you want to tell them how many folks you got invited in?
As of today, was it 86? It's a total of 86 attending as of this afternoon.
Lunch will be served. So those of you who have not signed up, this is your event. We certainly would hope that you guys would be there. We think it's going to be a lot of information shared, and hopefully we'll be successful and we could move forward with this workforce initiative program.
It's at 10, it starts at 10,
Joni, it started at 11, huh?
11.
The actual lunch begins, it's going to be like a buffet type, and it'll begin at 11:30, and the program itself starting at noon.
Okay, all right, thank you. 11:30. And the date on that again?
Thursday this week.
Thursday.
I'm not going to say January 16th. I will say Thursday this week. Okay. Anything else on this, Joni?
Not that I can think of.
We do have some special guests over here. We have ACT actually will be here, and George have invited folks from Longview, Texas, to give their experience as a work-ready community. We have some very Dennis with the regional, with the business roundtable will be a part of this thing. Also, State Representatives Joe Desertel will be on there, give some final comments. So again, I think it's important that you guys be there if you can be there. Thank you.
There being no consent agenda items, we'll move on to non-consent agenda items. The first to discuss for possible consideration approving a pipeline easement and right of entry agreement with Chevron Phillips Chemical Company LP, and we're going to take that one to executive session.
Yes, ma'am. What's my agenda?
Agenda item number 2 to discuss for possible consideration and economic incentive with Innova Eco Building Systems LLC.
Yes, Madam Chairman, I would like to table that for until we get more information.
Okay, agenda item number 2 has been tabled. Agenda item number 3 to discuss for possible consideration and economic incentive with Team Fabricators LLC.
Yes, Madam Chairman, Commissioners, in your package, I have provided you with, should look like something like this. Those of you who don't know, this is the second time team have come here. They are planning an addition of a $12 million expansion at their current facility. There is going to be 8 new jobs. I think they're going to add another bay, and they're also going to add another paint shop on this facility. They've been a very good customer of ours. The original request, I don't have the application in front of me, I think it was $500,000. Based on the numbers, we are recommending $324,784.
Is there any discussion?
How many jobs did you say?
A total of 8 new jobs.
8 new jobs?
Right. A lot of this, if you look at it, is about $179,000 for the job creation. The rest is for the capital investment. And I would think it's going to be more than that. I always tell my clients, be very conservative, because the lawyer's going to put this in the form of an agreement, and we want them to be successful. At the same time, just to be conservative.
Any other? May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and second to approve agenda item number 3. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carried. Agenda item number 4, to discuss for possible consideration a letter of intent for Abatex Corporation.
Yes, Madam Chairman, it's a company, I think it's out of the Dallas-Fort Worth area that's looking for approximately 3 acres in the business park to construct a office and warehouse facility. We ask you guys to move forward with the purchase of the land in the Port Arthur Business Park. It's on the letter of intent right now.
Is there any discussion?
What are we doing, a letter of intent or a purchase of land?
It's a letter of intent to purchase.
For the
for that-
purchase of land.
Purchase land. I think they did request some form of incentive, but we haven't started working. We haven't looked at if they're credit worthy or not, yeah.
You ready for a motion? Yes. You have a motion?
Have a second, please.
Second.
It's been moved and second to approve agenda item number 4. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries. Agenda item number 5, to discuss for possible consideration a letter of intent from Walker 414 Investments, Miss B's Retail Center.
Madam Chairman, I think I would recommend that we table this one. I don't have enough updated information. I did meet with these folks one day last week, and requested some additional information. We have not received the additional information. I ask that we table it until next meeting.
We'll move to table agenda item number 5. Agenda item number 6, to discuss for possible consideration and extension of the infrastructure economic incentive with PARC Enterprise. Any
No, this is number 5, Madam Chairman.
We tabled number 5.
Y'all want, okay, I got it.
Well, do we need a vote on that?
Okay,
To
on
table
number,
it?
You have to vote to table.
No, we
Okay.
don't have to vote to table it.
okay, you ready for 6?
Yes, sir.
Madam Chairman, on number 6, approximately, Crystal, how far back? Sometime last year, you guys voted to give Park an incentive that they were going to build, an infrastructure incentive to build a pharmacist and another building, 2 building on 9th Avenue. Within our agreement, it says that things must happen within 18 months. I did speak to Ms. Sanders, and what had happened, the storm came, as you guys know, and I think there was some other problems, concerns within the family, and what Ms. Sanders is asking you guys to do, extend this some additional time so that she could meet the condition of the agreement. I do have the client here. If anybody have a question?
Hello, everyone.
Hello, how are you? Good evening.
Hi, I'm Dr. Sandra Richardson, and you guys were gracious enough to extend to me a grant approximately 18 months ago. And as we all know, our good friend Hurricane Harvey knocked on our door and caused havoc. I took in 2 family members, and it was quite an ordeal, and I didn't feel like I could focus on doing the construction at the time. Now I'm ready to go. I'm ready to do this. I've got my financing in place. I've got letters of intent of people that want to rent, and I'm asking respectively that you all offer me an extension for at least till the end of the year. We're slated to break ground in March, but unfortunately my contract is going to be ending in March. But everything's in place. I'm ready to go, and like I said, I'm respectively asking that I have extension at least till the end of the year. And I've got some documents here, if you'd like to see those. Financing is in place, letters of intent. May I pass these around?
Certainly.
Thank you. questions for me?
Ms. Sandra, you're asking for the board, you're asking for an extension. I think you stated that in March, your 18 months will,
Be
how much
concluded.
more time you think it will be?
At least to the end of the year. So we're planning to break ground in March of this year. Approximately 6 months of construction will put us about September. To give us some leeway with the weather and hurricane conditions, we're asking to the end of the year.
So about 9 months, 10 months.
Yes, sir.
If there's an action item, it would just be to, we're not changing the incentive, just to amend the milestone schedule for the PA RC Enterprise incentive.
This is just a infrastructure agreement?
Yes, sir.
It's an infrastructure grant.
Okay.
So we haven't expended anything, so this would just move all the milestones back respectively about, 8 to 10 months.
You have a motion?
Second.
There's been a motion and second to approve agenda item number 6. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item number 7, to discuss for possible consideration of pre-employment training agreement for certified nursing assistant program.
Madam Chairman, I'm going to ask Chris to explain this.
Afternoon, board members. Good evening, rather. So before you, you have a request from Angels Divine Touch. Miss Angel Mays has approached us, and she actually approached us about a year ago whenever she was starting off her training school. She's got it off the ground now. The training school is located in Gross, Texas, but of course she's approached us with training for Port Arthur residents, which we can only fund Port Arthur residents tuition. So according to what she's given us, tuition for her training, which would provide nurses assistance training, would be $650 per person, plus $104 for the certification testing. She is planning to train up to 40 Port Arthur residents in a year's time. Now, we did have a similar contract to this before. Unfortunately, that contractor did not get off the ground. So it is something that we've done in the past as far as the type of training. It is considered to be a high demand in the area due to the medical nurses assistants and the high demand for that in our area. So it's the pleasure of the board if you would like to move forward with providing a training agreement with Ms. Mays for certified nurses assistants.
What's the total cost?
Total cost over a year's time for 40 students would be $30,160. So we would make it out to be not to exceed. Now, we would break those payments up like we do with all of our other training incentives, so she wouldn't get a total amount for the student up front. She would get an amount once she enrolls, once certified is done, and then with this type of training, we've done the third payout when placement is made.
So is that just for 1 year? Is she requesting 1 year's of training?
Yes, sir. Usually we do 1 year, and then once that year is up, we renew it at the pleasure of the board, depending on how the training has gone.
So there's no automatic extension after 1 year?
We haven't done it that way, but it could be if that's the way you all wanted to set it up.
Well, we'd have to structure it.
Right.
Where it is or isn't. Before we even voted on it. She's just asking she's not asking for approval, she's just asking for us to look at this.
Well, she is asking for an approval. We would have to go ahead and draft an agreement. We'd bring it back to you all once that agreement is drafted at the next board meeting. So tonight, we're just asking if y'all wanted to move forward with it and maybe allocate the funds.
Are we able to grant training money to someone out of the city of Port Arthur?
No, we be paying tuition costs
Right.
for Port Arthur residents.
Right. I understood
So we
that.
could do that.
We can do that.
The training could be in Lumberton,
Okay.
as long as the Port Arthur resident.
All right. I didn't understand that.
Kristen and I had a discussion on this today, and you know, I would like to take it to you guys. One of the concerns I have is, in addition to this training, they have to pass a certification or a test, which costs an additional $1.04. No, I'm sorry, $104. And the question is, this is not included within the $650. So my deal was, you know, if I have to pay $650 for you to get certified and you cannot pass a test, then am I shooting myself in the head? You know, so my recommendation to the board, if you guys would want to do this, they are talking about 40 people. I think we should start off with 20 folks and set some funds aside for those who have to take the tests. You know, because 40 folks is a lot of folks, especially for CNA. You know, prior to this one, you know, we worked with another provider, Ms. Elmore, and we were paying $1,000, but we didn't have, it was no traction to it. So I think 40 folks is a lot of folks. And I would like, it's up to the board, I would like to see a dollar value set aside so that we could pay if that person has to go take a state certification.
And I did, in that $30,160 that I mentioned, it does include the testing fee. So that's for 40 persons, but we can definitely start off with 20 if that's what you'd like to do.
And the full cost? I mean, there's no cost to the student?
The only cost to the student is going to be their supplies, which I understand are going to be, the books are included, so they'll still have to get a stethoscope. There's certain supplies, they'll have to get their own scrubs. So there will be some supplies that they'll have to get, but as far as the tuition and books, we're covering it.
And Commissioner, let me say, a lot of these folks are unemployed, and you know, and I think that I'm not sure on this thing it says $25.65 for supplies. I don't know if it provide all the supplies, but I think if the board's going to consider this, we need to make sure that we make the person whole and be able to complete so that they can become employed. Because we're dealing with some indigent people. Because you know, the pay rate for this thing is probably $12, $13, $14 an hour.
$9 to $10 an hour.
$9 or $10 an hour. So why would someone, we're going to find a lot of people with no money trying to get into this training program.
Just for clarification, the $25 that you're mentioning, it is included in the $650.
Yeah.
So there are certain supplies that she's including in there, but to answer your question, there will be other supplies that the student will have to be responsible for that she lays out in her syllabus here. For instance, the scrub set, socks, non-skid shoes, binders, stethoscope, and blood pressure cuff. Those things, she's not going to pick those up, so there's no way for her to give us a cost for that. So that's going to be on the student to pick up. But the $25 supply fee that she will be supplying, whatever those supplies are, that is included in the $650.
Last question from me. Before the program that we had before, there were no monies expended until there was a completion of the program. Is that?
They were expended once they completed certain milestones. So once the student was enrolled and completed a certain percentage of the class, then we paid out the first amount. Then once they were to receive their certification, we paid out the second. And then after they were placed in a job, because the contractor was liable to put them on a job, then we pay out that third reimbursement to the contractor. Now, we did not expend any with this contractor because it didn't get off the ground.
And the way we had it set up, Commissioner, is, you know, if they had 10 hours and they had to submit something to us saying they had 10 hours of classroom, they would get a 10% or 15% for enrollment. When they completed the training, we gave them additional 35, 40%. When they was placed, we gave them the remaining 100%. So it's a benchmark deal based upon, you know, our clients completing the project.
So this program is not set up like that?
Yes, it will be.
It's the same way.
It
The
will
same
be.
way we had our previous program. I think the only difference is the cost, right?
Right, this one is a lesser cost than the previous contractor.
I just have one more question. I know that we can pay for the training based on the bill that was passed, but does that include being able to pay for books and supplies? Or was it just for the training,
If it's part of the tuition cost.
as long as it's rolled together?
Yes, sir. I think the question I would ask, Commissioner, I'm glad it's a valid, very valid question. I'm going to go to the lawyer. Is can we pay for the testing?
The testing, I think if you're making a part of the incentive or grant that they have to get a job, they cannot get the job until they've been tested. So this is similar to what we did some years ago with students at LIT at Lamar or Floyd, I would say. And I do believe that they had a testing requirement to get the certification. We are training people to receive a certification. They can't receive the certification until they pass the test. So I think we can satisfy ourselves with that. And I believe, and I may be wrong, Crystal, that even the last time that the testing was part of that $1,000. So the cost is a little different here. That's what I'm trying to work in my mind, is how much the cost to the student would be for those non-tuition included amounts. Because that, I think you're correct. You have to be concerned about whether these people can actually fund even some of the other costs that they would need to have equipment that apparently is going to be needed for them to complete the training. And I think that would be good for that to be determined so that we don't build them up for failure, or we're not asking people too much. Because I have no idea how much more that particular pieces of equipment will cost.
My recommendation here again, Commissioner, just doing the math, we're talking about 20 students at $650 a person. That's $13,000. And if we're talking about 20 students, and hopefully we have 100% successful pass rate, that's an additional $2,000.
$15,000.
Yeah, and then if we would set aside $100 just for additional supply, but they would have to provide something to you saying we're not going to give them that. They would have to provide some invoice or some request to purchase, something to, you know, something to show that they are purchasing something, then we could, you know.
Like a reimbursement?
Right. Up to $100 and no more, so that we're talking about an additional two. So the total
$17,000.
project costs about $17,000.
Well, you know, my comments on it is, since y'all evidently have been down this road before with the same type of training, that if we drew up an agreement that we could understand what the final number is and
Yes,
what,
sir.
and what our safeguards are, you know, I think we'd all be in favor of it. It's just a matter, just from this, we don't, you know, me, because I've never seen one of these agreements.
Yes, sir.
It just seems kind of vague, you
Yes,
know
sir.
what I mean? But from what y'all have explained, y'all have seen a lot of this or
Yes, sir.
been through this.
The intent was to bring back an agreement What Crystal and Floyd and I are asking you all is for the parameters of the training agreement, which Mr. Baptiste is suggesting with Crystal would be approximately $13,000 for the tuition included cost, and then about $2,000 for the testing, and then about $2,000 or up to approximately a little under $100 a piece of workout for equipment once we get a number of what those would be. And then you're correct, we would need to work a program where we either this equipment was either acquired or we got a reimbursement from the students, because I'm sure she probably wants fairly standardized pieces of equipment for this training. So I think the question is, are you comfortable with it giving staff and us the opportunity to draft a training agreement with a cap of around $17,000?
May I have a motion?
You have a motion to proceed with the drafting of the agreement for pre-training CNAs, staying within the ramification of $17,000 per.
I have a second.
Second.
It's been moved and second to approve. Oh, I'm sorry, question. 20. 20. There's been a motion and a second on the floor to approve agenda item number 7 with the cap of 20 students. Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries. Agenda item number 8, to discuss for possible consideration requesting City Council's placement of a proposition on the next ballot allowing the use of PA EDC funds to support 4B projects.
Yes, Madam Chairman, Commissioners, in your package, we gave you guys a draft of the proposed proposition. We have submitted this both to the attorney and also the city manager and the Parks and Recreation Department. And we're asking you guys for your approval today.
For the benefit of those who have not served when we've done a ballot proposition, and several of you have in other areas, what Kate and I did in this, working with Mr. Baptiste and EDC staff and the city attorney, is try to replicate what we did in 2012. As Mr. Baptiste will go on and say, this was, in 2012, was primarily focused on capital improvements in parks, quality of life items that are not related to repairs or maintenance. These would be capital. And I know someone read it said, this is a lot of verbiage about things that I don't think we will ever see in public parks anywhere, Port Arthur or otherwise. This is what we replicated, is the language in the Development Act, Section 505, a 4B project for basically what is kind of the quality of life paragraph. And as Mr. Baptiste will tell you, as some of you who were on the board recall, there was a requirement that this money is not just simply sent over there, that it is a sort of you may recall there was a sheet of qualifications that the city would send to us, or neighborhood groups would send in requesting that the city present in, I think Lincoln Park was one of those at that time, and some others, there were not quite a few, but this would follow form if the citizens approve this. And this amount here is the money that has rolled off from the cannot be extended again agreement that you all did some years ago to move money to the street and road maintenance fund. Remember, there was an opportunity in state law to move some money. So this 1/8 of the 1/2 sales tax is the money you all had moved to the street and road fund. That full program is run and that's funded. And I did see the other day the city was looking at allocating money for some of those streets. But this dollar amount would be to facilitate effectively what we did in 2012, the only difference significantly being that one was capped at a total dollar amount, whereas this will float based on the sales tax collection at that eighth of a half.
I got a question on that. The only thing, I was all goo-goo about the park improvement, but the line in here which says they can automatically extend it for another 4 years with a city council vote, I got a little problem with that.
Well, and I'll just say this, and it's the pleasure of the board. We put that in there because this is similar language that we just did with our last two ballot propositions, being the one with affordable housing, which was just extended. So we tried to replicate what the board had done before, based on it required the vote of the council to do so. But it's the pleasure of the board that we did this based on what we had kind of in the pattern of these ballot propositions sent from the EDC to the city.
Well, my concern is that we're saying we're giving them 8 years. If we do not come back in on the process in 4 years and approve it, all they have to do is vote on it, and we're out of the loop. We're in it for 8 years.
You're correct.
You're correct. And what have happened in the past, Commissioner, we have always went with a recommendation as to what the council should or should not do based on past performance of a proposition. We went there with a recommendation based on the housing. We went with a recommendation. Every time prior to them taking a vote, we go there and, those are the same folks that appoint you guys. We're all on the same page. I think that if it's something good and it's a benefit for the city, the council will take the recommendation from you guys. If it's not good, and they're just going to end it. And we have always in the past, John, Commissioner rather, said the council have an option to renew with, I think it was with majority vote, or is it with majority vote?
That's what it says, the majority vote.
This one says a majority vote.
Yeah, and I think there's required a public hearing, right?
Yes, that's why we're trying to move this along, because we need to recall the public hearing can happen afterwards.
Right.
But the ballot proposition has to be approved the same time they call the election.
Right.
And that has to conclude not later than February the 15th, which means I believe that would be the first council meeting in February, which is not too distant, is when the council is going to have to move to adopt this, to get this on a May ballot. And they would like it then, because no one wants to be on a November ballot next year. So to get this thing considered by council, we need to move this in whatever manner y'all want us to, so they can then act upon this. And then they are required before the election, but it can be after they call the election, they must conduct a public hearing on a 4B ballot proposition. So that would normally take place sometime, normally in March or April. And in fact, sometimes they've done multiple public hearings on these ballot propositions.
Well, Guy, you don't think that we could put a line in there with a majority vote of city council and the approval of EDC?
We have not done that in the past, because remember, this is the city's ballot proposition. You are sending it to the city, and once the ballot proposition gets passed, it's basically a city. It's basically a city initiative. But I can't remember the last one, if it was a majority vote or a 2/3 vote. One of them.
I think it's a majority vote.
Okay.
We just did it for the housing program, and the council did approve it.
I will say that this one was just an exact, pretty much exact replication of the one that you all approved in 2012.
I certainly understand, Commissioner, your concern, because, this is four years down the road and what's going to be going on. But at the same time, You know, I've had a lot of several meetings with the director of not public works, parks, and I kind of understand where she's trying to go. I kind of understand their plans for the future of the city of the parks, and it will take a large infusion of dollars. And I will say, as director of this board, that for the last 4 years, you guys have given the city $5 million for street maintenance, and you guys have survived. And I think with what's going on in this town, and it's going to take another 4 to 6 years to change the quality of life. And I think in order for us to do that, first thing is going to take money, and it's not something that we desperately need at EDC. We've been making it without it, And I just believe in what the parks director is trying to get done in this community. In fact, Ms. Alpo is here. If you guys have any questions on what you want to do and where she's trying to go with this thing, and I would love if you guys take the time and let her share her vision with you guys.
Maybe she would come up here. I want to remind you all also, we pretty much emulated what we did in 2012. The city asked for a different matters, because recall, we didn't extend this one the last time, to enable the city in the meantime to come in and do the street and road maintenance incentive. So this one was not extended. Could have been, but was not extended last time, right, because the city knew that they were not going to try to reallocate but a certain amount of money from the EDC for these city projects. So, but we have pretty much from 2012 made an allocation of funds to forward the project.
But the city could have extended the street maintenance additional 4 years had they wanted to. But we asked them not to do this.
Correct, so that you could come back with this project.
Yes, because the wording that's in there, they have the perfect right to do that.
Yeah.
We don't know if Ms. Alpo's going to be here in 4 years. We don't know what's going to be here in 4 years.
Ms. Alpo, will you be here 4 years, Ms. Alpo?
You start having one question, and it has nothing to do directly with you. In the last proposition, the dollar amount was listed, is that correct?
Yes, sir. This was not based on the dollar amount. This would be based, like we did the street road maintenance, on a percentage of the collections.
So the last one we didn't have a dollar amount in it either.
The last one,
but it had a cap on it, right?
no, it was the same language. It was a half
1/8.
It was 1/8.
Well, let me go back. The last time we did parks, we had a dollar value.
Okay.
But when we went on streets and maintenance, we said 1/8 of your half. And whatever that 1/8 of your half was, we allocated to street maintenance. What we're saying this time, whatever that 1/8 is, we're going to allocate it to parks.
Okay, I just remember a cap. I didn't remember which one it was.
Not on street maintenance.
Not on street maintenance, on the previous park one and on the previous one on affordable housing, it had a dollar. That's correct. You're correct, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm gracious once again to stand before you. For those that don't know me, my name is Chandra Alpo. I am the Director of Parks and Recreation, and I just do appreciate the consideration for even trying to help us. We see the need in Port Arthur. There's a great need, and we know what's coming. And what we're trying to do is, I think it's the purpose of all of us, is to try to get those here, and we need to try to keep them here. So the one way that you can keep people here within the city is with the quality of life. We have been very, how can I say, lackadaisical with what we've done within the Parks and Recreation Department regarding the parks. I am aware of that, and my goal here is to change that. We've already been doing several things that's different, but we can't do it with money. It's been neglected for years, and I'm over 10, 15, 20 years. It's not gonna happen overnight, and we can't do what we vision to do with what we get. So if we can just graciously get your help to do what we need to take care of the parks. I have several things in mind. I'm looking at a soccer complex that I like to do, a multipurpose complex around Adams Park. I want to make Rose Hill the premier vision park with the city of Port Arthur. This downtown area will be booming with from the industry to everything, and we need to have more than that coming this way. We need to keep people this way. So I'll be more than gracious. And I've already, as I spoke with Mr. Sheriff, who's trying to get rid of me in 4 years, we've already spoken, and Ms. Ingrid on a call, and I'm very open, I'm very transparent in what I will have the input of the EDC, well, what we do. I want to share everything with you, get your input, your opinion, because this is for all of us. This is not just for me, the department, the city of Port Arthur. It is for everyone. So that's my ultimate goal. Any questions?
Any other questions?
One question. Once we allocate this money and you start the projects and the rebuild the parks and some of the other infrastructures surrounding these quality of life things, maintenance is a key component of keeping these things in the condition that will keep people attracted to using those things. There's no money in here for maintenance. So where would that?
We plan on taking care of that. I've already tried to redirect some of our funds in how we do things in the department. I think if we do things a little differently, then we can actually cover a lot of the maintenance. So we've been looking into different maintenance programs, different ways that other cities do things, but if we can get the help to get it done, we're going to maintain it.
You all will be willing to share the maintenance programs and how you're going to do things with us as well as the residents of,
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner, one of the things, Ms. Alpo, you may want to talk about is one of the things that they have put on the table, and I think the council have approved it, is I think it's about 7 or 8 parks.
Right. The city, I'm responsible for at least over 35 parks, right-of-ways, triangles, boulevards. So it's more than just a park. And in the department of a park staff of only like 8 employees, we have a lot of areas from ditches to shoulders to maintain. So part of my goal is to show that we are trying to meet halfway a little bit, is that I have a proposition on the ballot as well to sell some of the parks. So we're looking into getting rid of at least about 7 parks.
And that would allow them to maintain what they have. So, I commend you guys for the work you guys have been doing, Ms. Alpo, and I certainly see the vision that you guys are trying to reach, and I think it would be a win for this community if we could get there.
Thank you.
And one thing, again, we do not fund repairs and maintenance, but one of the things that I think we, at the end, maybe not the beginning, but the end of the park program last time, that we've been assured would happen this time, is, as you said, when they come and to tell us, we want to go to XYZ park and make these capital improvements, this is what it's going to cost, and this is what the possible future maintenance would be, whether it's, a spray park, whether it's a new, systematized jungle gym program, or those multi-use facilities, or whatever it is, the city would be coming back to let us know not only what this costs, but are we looking at items that are going to have high maintenance requirements. So
He's correct.
hopefully that would all be integrated if the citizens pass it.
Right, we'll definitely come back with it, and what we're doing now, we're trying to make certain things a habit that weren't a habit. So anything we look into now, that's the number one factor. We need low maintenance, from trees, bushes, flowers, to playground equipment. We need things that have low maintenance on it. So that's what we've been looking to. But quality, yes, sir.
I just want to say, like I said, I've been in a lot of meetings with these folks, and one of the things I did hear, Commissioner, is that the city manager have said to Ms. Alpo that they're going to allocate up to $300,000 of general fund for park improvements. And I've been hearing that's a lot of money to them, I think.
Yes, we're not used to nowhere near nothing of that sort.
But there's a commitment for a capital improvement program, and I think we're gonna see a difference.
Thank you so much, Ms.
Okay.
Alpo. I'm sorry, one more question?
Yes, sir.
The monies won't be used for nothing else but parks and recreation.
Which money, sir?
Uh, the
Which monies are you referring
The
to?
monies that you're gonna receive from the EDC.
Yes, it depends on if it qualifies within, because you gave me the parameters, the descriptors of everything, and anything that deals within those, that 4B category.
It has to fit within this right here. And one of the things, Commissioner, is the city we will handle the money for the city. She will make requests for purchases saying, these are the things that I want, this is the cost, and we would pay. The money is gonna be controlled by this board. So you will know what's being purchased at all times. Right. And I think in the past, Rachel, we set up projects for everything, right, for the parks?
Yes, sir. In the past, the parks that we helped to fund, each park had a certain amount that was allocated to that park, and it couldn't exceed that amount. So, yes.
This time, we won't have a dollar value for each park, but we will know exactly what's going in each one of those parks. You guys will know.
Y'all would keep us.
Yes, sir.
As we've noted, it starts with the effective date of the next budget year, October 1, 2020, if it's passed.
Any other questions from Ms. Alpo? Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, you have agenda item number 8. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second to approve agenda item number 8. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposition? Motion carries. Agenda item number 9, to discuss for possible consideration the purchase of signs for the Spur 93 Business Park at a cost not to exceed $36,000.
Yes, Madam Chairman and Commissioners, I've had Elijah and George, Ms. Davis, we've been looking at some signs for the two entrances on Westport off the road to the business park. Currently, we had some wooden sign, and every couple of years we had to change it and redo it. What they have gotten, George, you want to tell them what y'all had?
The two signs that we're gonna have, one is gonna be at the north entrance, one gonna be at the south entrance. It's of course, the high-tech LED lights, all of that, computer program. You could have the emergency broadcast stuff on there. We program everything on there. The reason we chose this company, what they had over the other guys, was in the future, if something is to happen to it, it was easier for you guys just to switch, well, not you guys, but for them to switch out the lights inside. I think it's like kind of like a cube or something. And the other company, it'd probably be more expensive. We have to come back and pay more for the repairs. So we picked this company thinking long term, it wouldn't be as expensive to come back and, make the repairs to it.
Any questions?
I'm being told, Commissioners, that we will be able to, it's all electronic from the office. We'll be able to advertise, show a map of the park and put all the business that's located. So in the past, we had the wooden sign. Like I said, when we brought in new business, we had to get another sign. This time, we have an electronic sign. It's all computerized now.
Any questions? May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
It's been moved and second to approve agenda item number 9. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposition? Motion carries. Agenda item number 10, to discuss for possible consideration a proposal from Insight Energy Consulting, LLC.
Madam Chairman, could I take that one to executive session?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 11, to discuss for possible consideration the use of $500 from EDC contingency fund for a community reception to meet its new city manager. Mr. Baptiste.
Yeah, Madam Chairman and Commissioners, there's a young group of directors for the city of Port Arthur and also with EDC. I think Mr. Davis is part of that deal. Those folks meet on a monthly basis. And one of the things that they came up with was a reception for our city manager to meet the community. And my understanding, and George and Ms. Alpo both part of this, every department is contributing, or each department is contributing a certain amount of money to make this thing happen at the Civic Center. The date have changed. It was proposed, it was planned for 30th. Y'all done changed it to February 13th because Mr. Burton had something else. But what we asking you guys, at least $500 to contribute to this event. It will be from 4 to 7, 4 to 8 at the Civic Center. So we're asking you guys to allow us to spend up to $500 on contingency fund for this event.
Any questions?
Yeah, I want to know what's going to happen at the event.
Well, I think the intent, Commissioner, is for the community to come meet the city man.
Oh, I understand that. I was talking to George. He knows exactly what's going to happen.
Oh,
It's pretty much just going to be, an introduction. Some people know Mr. Burton, some don't. We'll do like a welcome bio, stuff like that. Let him give his vision, for being city manager of Port Arthur. And of course, we'll have food. I think that's what you really want to hear.
Yeah.
And, basically a couple hours to meet and greet city manager.
How many departments do we have? How many meet?
How many departments, period?
Approximately. No, I get, participating.
I think we have at least 4 contributing.
4. Okay. 4 or 5. Okay. Any other questions?
So moved.
May I have a second? Second. It's been moved and second to approve providing $500 from the EDC contingency fund for community reception. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries. We have 2 minutes before 7 to, should we move to
I didn't know, you may want to decide if you have time to go through the ready.
Is it going to take long, Mr. Baptiste, or shall we go ahead and adjourn this meeting?
Recess.
I'm sorry, recess this
Recess.
meeting.
okay, that'd be fine.
You got 2 minutes? Okay. We have a minute, so if you want to take a stand up and stretch.
Stretch break.
Quickly, for a minute.
Stretch break. Saw that back
Okay, we're back to put this on. What time is this now? 7:30, okay. Yes, 30 minutes, okay. At this time, we'd like to reconvene the reconvene the annual meeting. May I have a roll call?
Yes, Madam Chairman. Mr. Anderson. Here. Mr. Scherfers. Here. Christopher Smith. Mr. Marks?
Here.
Mr. Smith, Dallas? English West Home?
Here.
Rhonda Connors? Madam Chairman, you have the floor.
The purpose of the annual meeting is to decide on the offices of the board. So we'll start with the first office to discuss for possible consideration the selection of the president of the board of directors of the corporation.
Historically, a name has been put in nomination and seconded, and then a determination if any other nominations were to be made. And if not, then a vote was made to approve by acclamation of the board. And, but certainly more than one name can be put in for each of the offices.
Well, I'd like to recommend Mr. Darrell Anderson as president of the board. Are there any other nominations? You will accept that if you were elected? Okay. Any other nominations? With that,
So the nominations are closed and just vote.
okay, the nominations are closed for president. Mr. Anderson will serve as the president.
Go ahead and take,
We
need to go ahead and take a vote. Yep.
Okay. All those in favor of Mr. Anderson as the president? Say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Motion carries. With that, I will step aside, Mr. Anderson, and let you. Okay. All right.
You chaired the minute through the beginning of the meeting, so he will take charge after the annual meeting.
Okay, all right. The second is to discuss for possible consideration the selection of a vice president of the board of directors of the corporation. Any recommendations?
I'd like to recommend or nominate Mr. John Scherfus if he's accommodating for that.
Okay, are there any other nominations? At this time, we'll close the nominations for vice president. All those in favor of Mr. Scherfus, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries. Mr. Scherfus, congratulations. To discuss for possible consideration the selection of the secretary of the board of directors of the corporation. May I have any nominations?
Nominate Dallas Smith as secretary.
Are there any other nominations? There being no other nominations, we'll close the nominations for a secretary. All those in favor of Mr. Smith remaining our secretary, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposition? Motion carries. To discuss for possible consideration the selection of the treasurer of the board of directors of the corporation.
I was getting ready to say we have a banker, so I was going to nominate Ms. Corners.
Would you accept that, Ms. Connor? Thank you. Any other nominations? There being no other nominations, we'll accept Ms. Connor as the treasurer. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposition? Motion carries. Board, do you have a new board for the next year? Do I go back to the agenda?
You simply recess, you just reopen the regular meeting of the EDC.
Okay. Well,
When does that take effect?
at the next meeting? Yes.
Yeah, Madam Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I'd just like to say, I certainly appreciate the work you have done and what you have brought to this board in the last 3-4 years. Personally, I want to thank you for what you have done for me, we spend a lot of time talking about the good things we do and the bad things we do, and I think that's good because we learn from the bad things. And I think as an organization, you have grown this organization, and you have taken it to another level.
Thank you.
And Mr. Anderson, sure wish you could wear the same shoes you wear right now.
Same shoes.
Oh, wait a minute.
Well, everybody's got something great to say about Ingrid, and I want to just add this. I took my first opportunity to serve in city government, just say it may have been about 30 years ago, and I had the privilege of having people like Ingrid, who was a child then, of course, a child department head, to educate me on the proper way to become a proper public official. And I will never forget the training. And even when I was at city council, I always said, yes, Ms. Holmes, whatever you want. So thank you, Ingrid.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll go back to the agenda. Agenda item number 13, to discuss for possible...
I believe 12.
12, I'm sorry. I thought we approved 12. Oh, 12,
This
I'm
is-
sorry.
this is the
I'm sorry,
regular
to
annual.
discuss for possible consideration an annual contribution for fiscal year 2019-2020 to the Regional Economic Development Initiative.
Yes,
Ready?
Madam Chairman and Commissioners, on an annual basis, you guys have contributed to the Regional Economic Development Initiative. Again, we asking you guys to contribute this year. I'm going to recommend $3,000.
Is that our normal contribution, Ms. Betty?
Well, it has varied. We have gone at $7,500. We went $3,000. It's a good organization. I don't see the real return on the investment, but I believe in a regionalized organization. I'm not getting my return, but I would like for us to continue being a part of this thing if you guys wish to. Yeah.
Do you have a motion or a comment? Do you have a comment?
No.
Comments, discussion.
Make a motion that we go with Mr. Baptiste's amount of $3,000.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and second to approve agenda item number 12. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries. Agenda item number 13, to discuss for possible consideration approving an agreement with Americom Marketing for corporate target market branding.
Okay. This is another project, commissioners, that, went before the council. The council had some concern. I think there was a lot of community concern about this deal. I spent several hours looking at this project this week. I recommend you guys remove this from your agenda.
Would you want to remove this from the agenda?
Yes, ma'am.
You do not want us to consider this agenda?
I think, Madam Chairman, last time this thing went before the council had a lot of concern about that. Not only the council, we had public comments, media, social media comment, newspaper comment, and then after looking at the project itself, I don't think that we could really get our return on the investment that we're putting in here. When you look at this deal, I don't think you're gonna get your return.
Was it, we were just bringing it back for consideration again, or
I think.
what was why were we having it on the agenda?
Well, originally, we went with the bid process to the council. The council accepted the bid with a lot of comments saying, well, we will wait until we see the agreement. And after going through the agreement and after observing some of the things that have transpired because of this, I don't think, it is my recommendation not to go forward. One of the things is is that, the price $36,850. I think that's the initial cost. We don't really know the real cost because the real costs start after this happened, the $36. Then the real costs start. So, again, I'm basing my recommendation on what transpired at council, what transpired what have happened in this community, what have happened in the local newspaper. I just don't see the return on the investment. And the intent of this thing, when you look at it, is to go out and find people to come to Port Arthur and live in Port Arthur. And one of the things the council have asked me is, will I be able to document those people transitioning from one community to the next community? I don't think I'll be able to do it. Now, I think Renata said something. I'm not very high on social media, but she said we can through a pen or something like that. And when we look at this community today, when you're riding on the highway, if you're riding in the back of another car, 3 out of 10 cars you're going to see going to have a license plate from somewhere other than Texas. So those folks are here. Those folks are here. And so that's what I base my recommendation on.
Because we had previously approved it, do we have to do anything other than nothing?
Pleasure of the board to do however you want to with the proposal.
Well, I think the recommendation is just to take it off the agenda, so is that your recommendation, just to take it off? Okay, so with that, I guess there's nothing.
Pleasure of the board, whatever you all wish to do.
Well, is there any discussion about that?
I'm not knowledgeable enough about it, but I'd definitely go with Mr. Batista's recommendation, since he's really seen a lot more of what's transpired. And I kind of agree that it's hard to track, getting new people here. I mean, there's a lot of other ways to get people here, or to keep them here, such as quality of life, huh, Ms. Alpo? Things like that. We get a lot more bang for our bucks that way, so I'm going to go with Floyd's recommendation. I would.
I just can I say one thing?
Certainly.
When we first passed this, it was, the intent was very misrepresented in the public for what we were trying to do. And I just wanted to say that for the record. It was never the intent of what went out, the way the public saw or understood what was taking place and what was printed. That was never the intent of this particular proposal. It was just to identify those high-level individuals, whether they were here or from here and gone somewhere else. I just wanted to clarify that. Now, I'm going with what Mr. Batiste is saying, but the whole discussion really got out of hand because of a misunderstanding of what we were actually trying to do. Our intent is always to hire Port Arthur first.
Agree, always. You may.
Just to follow up what Reverend Anderson was saying, my conversations in the community about the newsletter that went out was that there was a misrepresentation, and that we wanted to identify those Port Arthur residents who were misplaced during Harvey and other incidents and left, and try to get those people to come back because of the opportunities that are presenting themselves at this time with the revitalization of downtown, with Motiva investing in our downtown area. We wanted to make sure that we could actually identify people from here who could come back and benefit not only themselves but benefit our community. And so there was a misunderstanding, a misrepresentation, and so hopefully in the future we will communicate a little bit clearer when we send communications out to our public.
I am not going to beat a dead horse, but I certainly agree with these two gentlemen that what was said was a misrepresentation of our intent. We believe in our community, and we believe in the residents of this community, and that's why we sit here to represent them. So we would never want to put anyone in front of the people that live in this community. So that was never our intent. With that, we will remove agenda item number 13. Can we move forward with reports, business recruitment report? Renata?
Good evening. So I have some analytical data from our Facebook and our LinkedIn page. Just recently, Happy New Year to everyone, but I did make a post on LinkedIn, and from that particular post, we actually had 499 views within a matter of a couple of days, so that's really, really good. And on our Facebook, we had about 50 people that actually reached out, and I want to say thank you to Ms. Carter because she actually took out the time to actually friend us on Facebook. Also, moving on, just a reminder, tomorrow is the economic forecast breakfast. It's at 7:30. It's given by the Regional Economic Development Initiative Group, and it's at 7:30 at the Beaumont Event Center. So those of you that are attending, I guess I'll see you guys on tomorrow morning. And then also, I'm not going to waste a lot of time, but got a communication about the Sempra LNG project that's going on. It's an agreement. They had a good read on that. So if you guys would like to stop by my office, I can maybe make some copies, and you guys can read about what's going on in Port Arthur. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Project operational report?
Okay, first on our report, I'm passing around right now, coming around to you, is a flyer for Texas Back in Business. This is a grant for small businesses that has been long awaited that were impacted by Hurricane Harvey. The General Land Office dedicated some funding towards small business. As a matter of fact, we, the EDC, applied for some of those fundings to do something similar here in our city, but they decided to give it to one organization to go ahead and head all over Texas. So Texas Back in Business are the ones who are going to be distributing those funds. They are from $50,000 to $100,000. The grant funding. It is for small businesses. The business has to be identified as a small business. And I'm putting it before you today because we are really eager to get our Port Arthur businesses some of this money because they were heavily impacted. IEDC let us borrow someone for a couple of days right after Harvey, and her and I went door to door checking out the small businesses, and there was a lot of small businesses hurting economically and physically. So we're really excited that they finally came out with these fundings. So if you know of a small business that could use it, please direct them to the website on that flyer. The application is really easy. Really the only thing that it asks or may kick them out for is if they're not up to date on their taxes. So other than that, they're looking for creation of employment. So that's key as well for the small businesses to keep in mind.
Let me say this, on the creation of employment, it could be just yourself, one person, so I think it's very important, that if you guys, y'all out in the community, if y'all know any business within Port Arthur that had received any type of damage, and even if they had paid for the damage, they could possibly get reimbursed from $50,000 to $250,000. So, and if they have problems getting to the website, have them call Crystal, have them call Linda Tate. We're here to help those folks. I think it was $100 million. $100 million is going through a lot. At one time, it was a first come, first serve. I think now it's a lottery process, but this $100 million is not a lot of money when you're talking about 46 counties. So we certainly is pushing our small business to get into that system and put the application so they could probably get some reimbursement. And it's based upon employing people or expanding your business. We just need help getting out to the small businesses out there, folks. Because if we miss this opportunity, it's going to go. Once the money is gone, it's over. Thank y'all for whatever y'all can do to help them. I think last month we had a workshop at
Small Business Development Center.
SBDC. I think we had about 6 or 7 small business come there, but we need to get the word out. And you know, there's been some advertising, but we need to let small business know this money is available for them. You know, so whatever y'all could do to help, we certainly would appreciate that. Thank you.
Just to reiterate, you know, there was a lot of help to homeowners, but small business didn't get any assistance as far as grant funding goes. There was SBA loans available, but no grant funds. So this is a really huge opportunity for our area to get some of those funding. So please share if you know of anybody. Second on my report, I wanted to give you all an update as to one of your recent incentive awardees. They have not completed their contract. This is with Mr. Geraldo Munoz. He was on your agenda about a meeting or two ago. He is one of the infrastructure incentive recipients. We've been speaking with Kate in Guy's office on maybe changing up that contract a little bit. As you all know, we request letters of credit for those contracts in order to protect ourselves in case the project doesn't get completed. We are finding that it is difficult for the small business to get a letter of credit from some of the banks in the area, so we might restructure his in order to take a lien on some of his property. So that'll be on your next agenda, hopefully with an amended agreement that Kate will be working on.
Let me mention something here. Also, I have to get George to work with me real close, and you know I got to do it while I'm on it, because if it doesn't go fast, I'll forget it. I think Kate, myself, Kate, and Guy, and we need to look at how we can structure this thing, because it's becoming very difficult. In fact, today I spoke with the banker, and he was telling me their concern. And we are a minority community. We have a lot of the infrastructure is not being done by corporate America, it's being done by very small business folks, and they are having some issues. They always have issues with money. But at the same time, we have to protect ourselves. So I think, Guy, we got to try to find a way on how we can protect ourselves, but at the same time, help our small businesses. We have a problem right now.
Moving on, the second floor build out, as you'll see, there's work going on up there. They're moving along really quickly. That should be completed by the end of this month. So hopefully, we'll see some new offices up there and new tenants in the coming months. So that's moving along very well. As far as our scholarship and summer youth program, you all approved moving forward and renewing those programs for the upcoming year. I wanted to give you all an update that there were some concerns expressed at City Council. Mr. Baptiste may be able to explain those concerns better than I can. He was there and heard those concerns from the City Council members. So right now, those are on hold. They have not been renewed as far as City Council goes, so we're just waiting to hear back from City Attorney's Office on when, if they will be placed back on the agenda.
And I have been communicating with the city attorney and Mr. Cooper, who is the assistant city attorney. I have forwarded to them a copy of the training agreement law, the new law. Galen, Mr. Cooper have reviewed that. I've been dealing with this for 3 weeks to trying to get some traction with this thing, but I would think the city attorney's been, Val been pretty busy, so I'm waiting for her. And they know that we're trying to get this thing going because it's a process. And we're trying to get this thing started by this month, so in May, we would have some, some results or make some decisions. So I'm working on it. I cannot tell you what the city gonna decide on this thing. They do have some concern. Guy, I don't think they ever call you back, huh?
We have, I haven't had a discussion with the city attorney yet, no, sir.
Right. They're not calling me back neither. So we are working on it. So I cannot tell you we will have a summer scholarship program or a summer intern until I get from across the track.
What's the concern? If we just did this last year.
I understand, but this year they tabled it because they had some questions. We did it last year, and Commissioner, I went before them year before that, and they said we don't want 5, we want 20, and we went hustle 20 kids. And this year they're saying, well, we don't think you could do that. So I'm working on it.
What do you mean they don't think we can do? I mean, I don't understand. That
Well, it's nothing
that we
final.
can't get the kids, or that
It's nothing final until the council approve it. If the council doesn't approve it, we can't move forward.
Right.
So I'm trying to get it back before the council so the council could approve it. And
I mean, but what is the concern? They just
I haven't been told.
okay. Okay. All right.
And to piggyback on the scholarship, speaking of scholarship, our 2019 recipients, we had 5 recipients. They were all enrolled in the fall semester, all have completed their fall semester. They are re-enrolled at Lamar State College for the spring semester. Unfortunately, we are losing one scholarship recipient. They did fall below the required GPA requirement that we required to keep them going. So the other 4 are doing well. And just to give you all an update, that's moving forward with those students. They're doing well. And that concludes my report.
Thank you.
And, on that last kid, Crystal came to me today, and the last kid was below the threshold that we had set in the policy. Remember where were they?
They need to maintain a 2.5.
We say maintain a 2.5, they were at a 2.3, and my recommendation to her was they didn't meet the threshold, and we got to go with a policy. So that kid loses the scholarship. Yeah.
Financial report, Rachel?
Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
I have before you the financials up until December of 2019. The numbers are still unaudited. I did speak with Candy at the City of Port Arthur today, and they were supposed to close on some items on Friday, but they're still working. She said it possibly be this week, so hopefully next week we can have some audited numbers. This is for this beginning of this fiscal year. So when you look at the expenditures for up until December, you will not see the different years, prior years on this report, because I'm waiting for those audited numbers to include it. So at this time, we projected a total revenue of $4,890,000 $4,890,978. Our current expenditures effective December of 2019 is $404,381, which give us a expenditure over $4,486,597. We have a debt service of $821,419. Of that, we have funded $205,000. Our net change in fund balance is $3,665. And our fund balance at the beginning of the year, I also got this number from Candy, and this is a number that could change, is $8,340,696, which will give us a projected fund balance at the end of the year at this time of $12 million. Our current year remaining budget is $10 million. If you turn over to the next section, this is the expenditures. This is our operating budget. As for fiscal year 2020, we have allocated $10,619,029 towards our operating budget. As of December the 21st, $404,381 of that has been expended. If you take into consideration our debt service, these numbers are the same numbers that you see on the front of the sheet. I do want to point out to you on our sales tax revenue, which is the last page, the amount that we've collected so far for October, November, December is posted, but I want to call to your attention the line, you see the EDC, which is the total revenue that we receive in sales tax funds, and then you'll see the 0.75 and 0.25. That 0.25 is the amount that is going towards the, you were asking about how much money was going towards the streets. That is the line item that you look at. The rest of the funds on the 0.75 is funds that is allocated to the EDC for their fiscal year. So you can look at the past years here and see how much each year that we have allocated towards that 1/8 sale tax to the streets. Is there any questions? Thank you. You have a nice evening.
Thank you. Mr. Baptiste, do you have a report?
All right. Yeah, it's going to be short. I think the only thing I can tell you guys is Thursday last week, we did meet with the contractor and the architect for 5 Fort Street property, 5 Port Arthur News. We have established a maximum guaranteed price. Friday this week, the contractor is supposed to sharpen his pencil and tell us if you could meet our numbers. They were about $700,000-800,000 more than what we set as our maximum guarantee. They're going to sharpen their pencil, and hopefully Friday we're going to have a contractor agreement. Spoke to Kate about it, guy, or if you cannot meet it, we'll go to the next guy. But we have set our guaranteed maximum price at $7,250,000. That's all I have.
Before I read the executive session summary, I'd like to make an announcement. It has been with the greatest pride, with honor, with a lot of grace, I hope, and a lot of integrity that I have served the Port Arthur EDC for the past 4 years. I was honored when City Council member Caprina Frank appointed me, and I am honored, and with the same grace and integrity, I will be resigning from the Port Arthur EDC effective the end of the board meeting today, and I will be announcing my candidacy for the City Council District 1. It has been a delight to work with everyone on this board. I will thoroughly miss each and every one of you. EDC is one of the best things that's ever happened to Port Arthur, Texas. It is my intent to see that this city continues with the grace and the honor that we have. It'll be at the close of this meeting, so I will be at the executive meeting. Thank you.
Ms. Holmes, I just have to say, I thank you again for the things that you have done for this organization and the leadership that you have brought to this organization. And it's kind of like guys say, I have to say, Ms. Holmes, yes, ma'am. You have taught me a lot. You have helped me grow. I really appreciate all that you have done. Thank you very, very, very much.
I really appreciate working with you. And Guy, I certainly appreciate everything that you've done with the guidance that you've given me on this board. And I appreciate the guidance I gave you at City.
Mutual admiration.
With that, I'd like to announce that a closed meeting will be held pursuant to the following sections of Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code, Section 551.071, to discuss with the attorney Guy Goodson pending potential litigation, electrical services for Spur 93, Section 551.072, Section 551.074, Section 551.087. With that, we'll move to executive session, recess to executive session.
Gerald Anderson. John Sharpus. Christopher Smith. Kenneth Marks. Dallas Smith. Ingrid Holmes. Rhonda Connor. You have a quorum, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. We have two items for review. Agenda item number 1, to discuss for possible consideration approving a pipeline easement and right of entry agreement with Chevron Phillips Chemical Company.
We've suggested the move to approve, and we'll be doing some discussion with the company.
Is there any other discussion? May I have a motion, please?
Second.
It's been moved and second to approve agenda item number 1. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries. Agenda item number 10, to discuss for possible consideration or proposal from Insight Energy Consulting, LLC.
We do recommend the engaging of Ms. Dyer's firm based on the work that she's done for us, and Mr. Baptiste is going to present this to council, but has requested that he be allowed to spend up to $5,000 in service costs with her as we've moved along so far in our discussions for upgrading the power at the business park.
You've heard the motion. May I have a approval?
Second.
It's been moved and second to approve agenda item number 10. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? With that, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and second to adjourn the January meeting of the Board of EDC.
Come back for a visit.
I will. I'll be back. I'll be back.
Hey, y'all, it's been a pleasure.